Hey, what's up? I'm Mike Rosica. I wanted to chat real quick about how we're going to be releasing this podcast. And since both Drew Paul Bell and myself have pretty active YouTube channels, what we've decided to do is to split it up. So, on the Young Architect YouTube channel, I'm going to post all of the episodes that are even numbered. So, episode 0, episode 2, 4. I'm going to post all the even numbered episodes. And Drew Paul Bell's going to take all the odd numbered episodes and post them on his channel. And so, to make it easy so you're not bouncing back and forth all these different episodes, I would first say both subscribe to both the Young Architect and the Drew Paul Bell YouTube channels. But what both of us are going to do is we've created a playlist on each of our YouTube channels called the Mike and Drew Architecture Podcast. And in that playlist, it's got all the episodes listed. And even though Drew Paul Bell, posted episode 3 on his channel, I can still add that to the playlist and have it sequential. And to make it even easier, I've created links, 2 links. I have youngarchitect.com/Mike, which will take you to the playlist on Young Architect channel, and youngarchitect.com/Drew, which will take you to the same playlist on Drew's channel. In some ways, it doesn't even matter whose playlist you're watching because they're the same exact videos. And so that's how we're going to do it is, Young Architect will post the even, Drew's got the odd numbers. And then in a couple of weeks down the road, after we get this playlist, this podcast kind of rolling out a little bit faster, we're going to strip the audio. We're just going to take the audio from all these and we're going to actually put it out as a podcast, the same way we publish the Young Architect podcast. We'll post it on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify. We'll get it out there. But for now, we're just releasing these on YouTube. So that's how we're doing it. And I hope you enjoy the new show. Take care, everyone. What's up? Welcome. I'm Mike Rosica, and I'm here with my friend, Mr. Drew Paul Bell.
What's up?
Architect Drew Paul Bell.
What's up, man? How you doing?
Really good. Good to see you, Drew. Drew, we've been hanging out on Tuesdays for, I don't know, a couple of months now.
Yeah, was it most of this quarantine? When did we start doing this?
I don't know.
At least a month in.
I feel like I reached out. Like, I was so bored one day, and I was so lonely, and I was just like, it was the quarantine was wearing on me, and I just reached out to Drew. I was like, "Yo, man, you want to hang out? Like, let's jump on a Zoom call and just get caught up." I didn't talk to you in a while, and we just jumped on, and we've been meeting up every Tuesday, Taco Tuesday, and I ate tacos a few minutes ago. I think you just had tacos a few minutes ago too.
I had to settle for some Chipotle because I was late in the game today. My taco delivery people have been letting me down, and then my Chipotle people ran a little bit late on me today too, but that's all right.
You and I never
complained about Chipotle.
We never see each other eating tacos, but we always spend Tuesday together and we both have tacos.
I don't want to get it all over the screen, and it's kind of a mess. I don't like talking with my mouth full. So I try to get it done beforehand. I love Taco Tuesdays, but what I love even more than Taco Tuesdays is just kind of like drinking beer and talking with people. So
yeah, I'm into that, man. Yeah, so me and Drew have been hanging out for a couple weeks, whatever. And brainstorming, talking about a lot of things. And one of the things that kind of came out of it is we decided that, hey, what the hell? Why don't we add another project on both of our plates and start like a new podcast or something?
Because neither of us has enough to do.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But that's how stuff happens. If I didn't have 20 projects going on, that's when I get in trouble, man.
Somebody said the other day, they were like, you don't wait till you're done with one project to get the next project. You get it teed up ahead of time before you're out of work.
Exactly.
I think that makes sense.
Yeah. So we're going to start a new show, and we're going to make this episode 0. And there's really no agenda. There's no agenda to this show at all, period. It's just me and Drew hanging out, talking about shit. But I was thinking episode 0, we'll just kind of give this thing some context and maybe just talk about what's been going on for the past 2.5, 3 years with each of us, and to just kind of give this show some context and kind of just talk about our favorite subjects, which is ourselves. So
and architecture
and internet and memes. And jokes.
Yeah, I think it's super important to have like a mastermind group, and that's something that I've always heard for a long time and I really believe in. I haven't necessarily like put that in place. And I feel like it's important. There's an old saying from the self-help world they say that you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
It's true.
Like if you're hanging out with people who are going to the gym every day, they're jacked, they're doing fitness competitions or whatever, you're going to put on some muscle because now it's going to seem normal for you to be going to the gym, lifting more weights, doing all that kind of thing. If you're hanging out with millionaires, then you're going to run into a couple extra bucks, you know? And so one of the reasons why I've been looking forward to hanging out with you, Mike, this, on these Tuesday things is because I'm doing the YouTube thing sort of like I've done it. And at this point I have I'm approaching 20,000 subscribers and it's been a cool thing for me. However, it's like none of my friends do it. And so sometimes it's hard to get that motivation. You kind of fall out of the routine and you're just kind of in the daily grind of showing up at work and going home and showing back up again the next day. I think it's super important to kind of have those people that you can look up to and other people who are doing the same thing to make you realize, hey, this is not that big of a deal to start a podcast or launch a little side business or something like that,
Yeah.
And if you're not doing that with people in your life, I think it's important to surround yourself with people. It counts. The 5 people you spend the most time with, it counts to say, listen, the books you read, the people you follow online, if that's what you're putting into your mind, that's what you're putting into your psychology, then that's going to affect you. You may be stranded in middle Georgia, where I grew up, but you have access online to people who are doing all kinds of awesome things. And so by tapping into that can help prepare you for, that next step you're trying to take.
Yeah. Isn't it amazing how the technology, the 5, your 5 people concept that we were just talking about it's that with technology today, you can tap into some amazing podcasts and get knowledge from people. I listen to Joe Rogan a lot and I feel like he's one of my 5 people that I spend the most time with. And I've never met the guy face to face, but I feel like I know everything about him.
Yeah. I mean, and I feel like I look up to the internet in a lot of ways because of that kind of a thing, I get real pissed off with people when they start talking about how, the internet's ruining people. There's going to be the downfall of society, kids these days, whatever. And I have almost no respect for that argument. There's so many people that think that the internet is ruining our minds. And there's a book called The Shallows, which I've not read. There's people who I look up to who say, hey, this book's got a good point. So I reserve my right to change my mind later. But right now, my opinion is that, all the things that people complain about the internet for doing, they're like, oh, it shortens your attention span. It brings out the worst in people. I don't buy that. I think that on the other end of the internet is just, it's a connection of a bunch of computers. And on the other end of every computer is a human being.
Mm-hmm.
And so really what you're watching online is just human nature. It's not computers. It's taking this event that otherwise would have been forgotten. You wouldn't have been there. You wouldn't have heard the crazy conversation, the racist conversation, the terrible thing. It would have gotten just lost in the sands of time. But instead now it's cast in amber. It's that tweet that still stays there after the moment is past, the heat of the moment is over, right? Now you can look back on that one thing and you say, oh, that's bad. And it's tempting to say, oh, Twitter is bad or YouTube is bad. But I disagree with that. I think that if anything, the internet just displays what was already there in the first place.
Yeah.
And to anybody who thinks that the internet is ruining people, they're not creative enough about the way they're using it.
Yeah. And when it comes to architecture and community, I think the internet might be one of the best things that ever happened to the profession of architecture, because suddenly we got, Drew, 20 years ago, I don't think you and I could have ever become friends without the help of the internet.
Yeah, exactly. We would not be friends if it weren't.
I mean, I met you at an AIA conference, but I would have met you and I would have never talked to you or heard from you ever again.
Well, see, I went up and found you because I knew you from the blog.
Yeah, so you wouldn't have even known who I am. We probably would have never crossed paths.
Yeah.
So.
And I wouldn't have been. Oh, and also, I don't think I would have been at that conference. No, that's not true. Because I was going to say, I think I went there on a press pass, but you gave me the idea to use the press pass to go to the AIA conventions. That one I got to go for free because I was new AIA associate or something.
Yeah, I don't do that anymore.
Yeah, that's right. Forgot.
Yeah, man. So here we are. Mike and Drew got a new show. We don't even really know what we're going to call this show just yet. Me and Drew kicked around a bazillion names, but I don't know. We don't have to decide right away. We'll figure it out, Drew.
Yeah. Yeah, we're gonna record a couple episodes here, get our footings under us, and get it published out.
Yeah, it'll be good. So I was thinking, Drew, you and I have a lot of people know who we are, but I was thinking, why don't we kind of give an update of kind of what's been going on for the past 2.5, 3 years? You want to go first, Drew? I know you've had a
Yeah,
lot of life
sure.
changes.
Yeah, okay. So I was, I'll rewind to anybody who was like watching me on my YouTube channel back in the day. Back in like 2016, 17, I was doing a good job of pumping out a lot of videos. I was publishing videos like pretty much every week, and I'd have stretches where I did a good job, and then some weeks where I didn't. But for the most part, I think it was like 16, 17, I was doing a good job. But then around about somewhere in 17, I actually ran into kind of a bump in the road with the job. I was getting paid hourly, and the job I was at, we had a few projects fall through at the same time. I had some tax problems that came up to bite me in the ass, and I realized I was spending too much money, and I was going to be in some trouble. So I had to like hunker down, stop going out to the bars and nightclubs and paying Ubers at 3 a.m. for 3 times the Uber charges, and I kind of had to stop like a bunch of that stuff. And when I did that, when I went into like energy conservation mode,
Mm-hmm.
it was also hard for me to pump out the YouTube videos. Funny enough, then in that same kind of time frame, I decided, you know what, like I've had fun for a few years here out of college. I want to focus on getting the AREs done. Also, all right, so there were like 2 items at the top of my bucket list, and that was becoming a registered architect and moving to New York City.
I remember
Because
the
I was
first time
living
I
in
met you,
Atlanta at the
Drew. You're
time.
like, I want to move to New York so bad.
Dude, there's a lot of people that have that story. They were like, dude, you told me you're moving to New York the first time I met you.
Yeah.
and I guess that's all I talked about back then. So yeah, like it was kind of it was really eating me up that I wasn't in New York. Like I always wanted to live here, and I committed to getting the license done, to finishing the license. So I started taking the exams. I think it would have been like October 2017. No, it would have been 2016. I think it was 2016. I started doing the exams, and then it took me about a year and a half, but I finally finished them around about June 2018. And I started out in the 4.0 version of the test, and then transitioned to the 5.0 version of the test, which it was an interesting like testing strategy that was available at the time, because I started like the last month you could start the 4.0 test, like that October, and then it was interesting. But the way that testing process goes, you end up taking only 5 exams, but they're like the 5 biggest exams because they cover the most topics. So I don't know if that's even necessarily easier than just taking the other exams, but it is what it is, and it's what I did. So once I got the license done in like June 2018, then I was on the hunt for a job up in New York, and so I was spending my nights working on applying to jobs, trying to get interviews lined up, and I felt like I knew I needed to have a job in New York before I moved to New York, because you can't get an apartment if you don't have a job, and it is stupid expensive in the city. So like you have to have a job. So I was trying to break in with no connections,
Mm-hmm.
but I finally got in. I got a job at Meridian Design Associates, where we're doing mostly like corporate interiors for media companies, are kind of our bread and butter. We had a few state projects, government projects, and that kind of thing. But yeah, so I got the job offer.
Hey,
And
wait, let me
then,
interrupt for a second, Drew.
yeah, what's
I
up?
just had a question. How did you break into that New York market, as an outsider? How did you find your job?
Well, it was a few things. Like for one, the projects that I got to work on in Atlanta were great projects. They were award-winning design projects. The firm I was at in Atlanta was called Robert M. Kane Architects,
Hmm.
and at Robert M. Kane, what I did was it was a small firm, so I did a little bit of everything. And not only that, I also worked on like some of the design award submittals. And so in my portfolio, my little work sample, I was showing some projects that I worked on that actually won design awards. And so I knew how to present. I knew how to present the projects really well. So that helped me get the attention of the guy at the office who screens for that kind of a thing.
Oh, good.
And then the other major thing that I did was, this has been a strategy that I've been trying to implement since I graduated college, back since I was in college, I actually ended up starting to learn ArchiCAD rather than Revit, because everybody says, "Oh, you gotta learn Revit because everyone uses Revit," which is cool. But like, if you're on Revit, then you're also competing with everyone for a job. I was like, look, I have a Mac. Like, it's not really easy for me to run Revit, parallels, and that kind of virtual machine or whatever. It doesn't work for me. Like, I don't understand how anybody has the patience to deal with that. I don't. And so I was like, and I had a professor who knew ArchiCAD, so I could ask him questions. Meanwhile, the people learning Revit, none of the teachers in my school knew Revit, so you couldn't ask any of them. It was just a bunch of students trying to help each other out by watching YouTube videos. So I felt like I was getting pretty good training on ArchiCAD my last year in school, and then that was how I got the job at the award-winning design firm, and that was how I got the job up in New York. So I became buddies with the people at Graphisoft, and then I had them, from talking to them, I got the name of a couple firms. So I was focusing on those because it's basically supply and demand. You know, like, you can say, oh, no one uses ArchiCAD, and people who are drinking the Kool-Aid love to dunk on any of the other like programs out there. But you know, like, it's not that no one's using them, because if no one was using them, they would not be in business, you know? And it's about understanding supply and demand. So like, if you're the one who knows it, you can walk into just about any of those firms if they're hiring, and you're more than likely going to be the one who gets the job. So you may have a little bit less flexibility about the number of places you can go, but you're going to be coveted at the ones where you can go. So that was a lot of what got me in the door at the firm up in New York.
Yeah, I actually worked in an ArchiCAD office a long time ago, and I remember that was an issue. Is always, do you know ArchiCAD? That's the software we use. That's the platform, and they were always looking for it. And so that's an interesting niche. I never really thought about the software that maybe looking at the firms that are using that software and using.
Yeah.
Did Graphisoft help you connect with the company?
Yeah, a little bit. So back then, all right. So right after I graduated, I actually called up Graphisoft, and I said, "Hey, I'm looking to move to New York. Can you hook me up with, like, I know that you have clients who are looking for interns who know your software. I know your software, and I'm looking for a job. If you recommend me to your clients, we could all win here. It's a win-win-win situation, right?" And so I talked to the regional sales director up in New York. He was all fired up about it. He's like, they had me write a blog post for them, and he was like, "You're a superstar. I'm looking forward to this. It's gonna be awesome." And then like a month or two went by, and I just didn't hear anything back. And it was 2014 when I graduated. And so, depending on who you ask, the economy was like, it was coming back from the recession. And a lot of people I've talked to said that it was clearly back in fall of 2014, but in summer, so like summertime, people weren't entirely convinced yet. They were still a little uneasy and a little unsure. So I think I probably hit that wave a little bit, and people weren't really hiring then. After I accepted the job in Atlanta, because I decided, after a few weeks, I decided I have to at least halfway focus on Atlanta. I ended up with like 2 job offers in Atlanta in 2 weeks, and then the next day after I accepted one, I got a call from the guy up in New York, and he was like, "All right, the one firm I really wanted you to talk to, like, the owner was out of the country on vacation, but he just got back, and they're interested in having you then." And I had to tell him, like, I've already accepted the job. And again, I felt like that was where I was supposed to be, the one in Atlanta. And then, funny enough, though, it is crazy. All right, so that firm who he wanted me to go talk to, and they were interested in me, but they were away on vacation, I'm pretty sure that's the firm I'm actually at now, because he told me about some project that they were working on that was like for ESPN radio. And that's what this firm here does.
Okay.
They do media companies. And so like I Googled it on their website. I found out that, like, oh wait, they did do ESPN radio. This is the firm that I almost went to back in 2014. But now it's like 2018 when I moved up here. So
it all comes full circle.
Yeah, dude, it's crazy. And even
That's
the
awesome.
firm in Atlanta that I ended up at, one of my friends knew that I was trying to move to New York, and she somehow was in like she was in some type of position where she knew about job openings before most other people did. She was doing like BIM consulting or something like that. And so she knew about 2 job offerings. One was up in New York at some star architecture firm, and then the other one was in Atlanta. And she told it to me, and I totally poo-pooed the one in Atlanta. And I was like, oh, I'm gonna go to the one up in New York, even though I was like not qualified for it. And I think I'm still not qualified for that one. And I was still just kind of aiming too high, so I was still like, yeah, whatever. And then the one that I ended up working at, that was the one I ended up working at in Atlanta. The one that I poo-pooed, and I was like, nah, yeah, no, I'm not gonna worry about that one right now. I ended up finding them on a job board from ArchiCAD, and like they hadn't put in their name. It was like an anonymous. I don't know why they didn't have their name. They must have forgotten to enter it in or something like that. And I was reading the description. And I was like, this place sounds great. They're doing award-winning projects. They're in Midtown Atlanta. They're doing residential, which is what I thought I wanted to do. And this sounds awesome. They use ArchiCAD. This is amazing. And then I was like, I want to go here. So I went to go apply. And then I was like, wait, let me Google search this description, see if they posted this somewhere else on some other job board too. And it showed up on some other job boards. And it was the firm that my friend Patricia had recommended I go apply to in Atlanta. I poo-pooed. I was like, I don't want to go there. So yeah, man, that's why I felt like that was the place I was supposed to be. And then the one up here in New York, it's just crazy how everything comes together, you know?
Yeah. So how's New York been?
I love it.
Yeah.
New York is cool. It's expensive. So I feel like I'm still not living it up as much as I should be. But
dude, we're in a fucking quarantine.
Yeah, especially now because like we're in a fucking quarantine. Paying a lot of money to chill out in middle Manhattan.
Stay inside all day.
I do think this is right. Yo, I'll tell you what though, man. There's a lot of people who were like, "Oh, just get some shithole apartment because you're not gonna spend any time in there anyway." Well, I'm glad I'm not one of those people right now because that would be terrible.
Yeah.
my place is pretty good for what it is.
Good. But it all lucked out for you, man.
Yeah, man. But New York has been an adjustment, but I've loved it up here. And a lot of people down south told me, "Oh, you don't want to live up there. They all come back. You'll see." And I hated hearing that because I knew they were wrong. Like I could feel in my soul they were wrong, but I couldn't tell them I knew that they were wrong. But now I can. And it's for me, you know. Some people are meant to live out in the suburbs, and that's fine. I don't need to change anybody's mind. I don't need them to agree with me.
That's their reality, not yours, though. You know, that's their lives, and that might not make what you want to do with your life and is completely alien to them and their lives. And I don't know.
Yeah,
I've dealt with a lot of that.
I bet you have, man.
Not supporting it or like, well, that's a stupid idea. You don't want to ride your bike across America or something like that.
Exactly, or go tour around the country in a van.
Yeah, silliness. But I'm proud of you, man. I'm proud of you, Drew. You got it all figured out. You made it happen. You set a goal, and the first conversation I ever had with you, he told me he was going to move to New York. So I was super pumped when you finally made it happen. It was cool. I remember the architect exam was a big part of it too. You needed to wrap that up.
Yeah, because I felt like I needed to have the license in place to be able to afford to live in New York, and like that was pretty much true. I'm glad that I did that. My mom kept telling me like, just focus on the exams. Just focus on the exams. I'd be like, I'm doing this YouTube video. She's like, just take your exams. Just focus on your exams. And I was like, I don't know. I want to be doing YouTube. I want to move to New York. Thankfully, she talked some sense into me to prioritize getting the exams done first and then moving to New York. I think that, having the exams done, when you don't have it done, is easy to say, oh, well, it doesn't matter. I can just do it later. But once you do have it, you have so much more power. You have so much more power for your own career. You know, like in a downturn like this, you'd much rather have your exams. You'd much rather have your license in a moment like this than not. Yeah. You're way more valuable to your firm. You have way more flexibility. You have way more options. Like when shit hits the fan, whether it's this or something else, like some projects fall through or some black swan event takes out your company, having that license could be a huge opportunity. Like it gives you more options.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more, Drew. One of the things I also say is it's out of all the projects you got going on in your life, I'm sure there's like 3 or 4, projects you got in the office, you got hobbies, there's a million things happening. Architect exams are actually probably the most important project because every day that you're not licensed, you're losing money. You're losing out on opportunities. There's stuff you can't do when you're not a licensed architect. And I would even say too, I And I think I'm a great example of this, because the day that I got my license, it's been a couple of years, and the day that I got my license, my life has significantly changed from that time. And it's not like winning the lottery where suddenly you just, you make it rain, all this money just rolls in. It's actually the opportunities. And because once you have that piece of paper, it allows you to walk through a door that you couldn't walk through before. And now you can do things that you couldn't do when you weren't a licensed architect. And that's where my life changed. That's my freaking life. My entire life has changed because not because I'm licensed, because it opened up opportunities, and the opportunities are worth so much more than that stupid raise you're going to get at your office. So
Yeah. So what specifically, what was like one specific opportunity that opened up for you that?
Well, I would say it would be
about.
I would say it was young architect, because if I never completed the architect exam and I got on the internet and started ranting and raving about it the way that I do, no one's going to take me seriously. No one's going to listen to me or what I have to say. And so that's probably one of the biggest. And from young architect, it like blossomed the boot camp, the podcast, like all these other things like grew out of that. But if I never became a young architect, none of this stuff would have made sense. And I don't think anyone would have paid attention as much as they did.
Mm-hmm. And so yeah, you absolutely have to have done it in order to do like the young architect brand and all that, because I mean, like you can't tell people how to do something you haven't done before.
I'd say in my opinion, even from what I see, stamping drawings is probably the least of the benefits of being a licensed architect. I mean, Drew, have you even stamped a drawing since you've had your license yet?
No.
Yeah. But you use it every day with the knowledge and skills and the fact that you accomplish this goal. It comes up. It's so ingrained into what we do and how we work. And so.
Yeah. Having the freedom to go do it is definitely interesting, because like I got my stamp pretty early. I got my license pretty early. I was 27, I think. And I felt like I feel like I probably still have more to learn before launching my own architecture firm. I think that if I had to launch one like this year, I like to think that I could pull it off. But I also think that like optimally, I'd still wait another couple of years before I would go do something like that. But it has got me thinking about like, when is the time to jump out and start your own firm? And what does that look like? Does it look like a traditional architecture firm where you are getting clients and designing projects and going through schematics and DDs and CDs and punch lists and submittals and reviewing shop drawings and stuff like that? Or does it look like something else?
I don't know.
Like,
could be both. I mean,
yeah, man, because I feel like it was such a headache, like getting the license done. That's the other reason why I haven't gone to start some new firm, man, because it's easy when you don't have your license to say, oh, well, I would totally do that. It's like when you go out to a bar with your friend and he has a girlfriend, he's like, oh, dude, I'd be talking to all these girls right now. I'm like, yeah, sure, I bet you would be.
Yeah.
And, like everybody's got a plan until like it's actually time for them to step up and do the damn thing. And so like a lot of times they don't. And so like I'm sitting here talking about how, all right, yeah, I have the license, but at the same time, I also busted my ass for like a year and a half, 2 years to get my license done. And then it was trying to move to New York. And then it's like, all right, getting my footing under me in New York, and still trying to have some fun, right? Because I'm in my 20s.
Yeah.
I didn't have a lot of fun when I was in college. I spent 5 years with my nose to the grindstone. And I'm not sure I want to dive right back into that right away. There's plenty of time for that. I could do that in my early 30s and still have a very long, fulfilling career.
Yeah.
And I have the freedom to go do that tomorrow if I wanted to. But I don't know, man. I respect how much work it would be. I work with someone like I've had coworkers work with me and like complain about the principal doesn't do this, the principal doesn't do that. It's like, well, I mean, listen, that dude he's making a lot of money. He's also like, he's liable. Like if all this shit goes wrong, it's on him. Like we can all jump off the ship, right? We can all move to some other firm. He can't just jump off the ship. Like, I heard Grant Cardone saying that the other day to his people. He was like, we're going through all this COVID stuff. Like, listen, I'm captain of this ship. If you want to jump off the ship, go jump on some other ship. Listen, I don't want you to, but if you got to go do that, you can go do that. I got to go down with the ship.
Yeah.
And
It's his
that's true
business.
for the business owners.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. Like, it's a major commitment, and so I have a lot of respect for what it goes into to run a firm,
Mhm.
and I want to be absolutely sure that I'm ready to go and commit to that kind of a thing when it's time to pull the trigger. And so I know people who are like they're itching to get their exams done, and then they're like, if I have my license, I do my own firm. I don't know why you haven't done that yet, but I don't know, man. I feel like the time's just not right immediately. I got some other irons in the fire I want to work on,
Yeah.
have some fun.
Drew, you're gonna be working on architecture projects the rest of your life. You know?
Yeah.
There's gonna be, you're working with this firm, you'll start this business, you'll start that business. There's a million things. You've already made a lot of changes in the past 2 years. Two and a
Yeah,
half
absolutely.
years.
Dude, for real. And hey, man, let's not forget like the value in having somebody. Like, we're at a firm where there's like 17 people at my firm and there's like 3 partners, principals who like spend most of their time getting new jobs.
Mhm.
Cool. Like, that means I don't have to be doing that, right?
Yeah.
I can be getting a steady paycheck, doing the drawings and kind of waiting for instruction. And yeah, like following other people's instructions is a little frustrating, and that gets more and more frustrating. It gets frustrating from time to time. But like, I try to always remember the fact that there's a lot of things I don't have to worry about. Like, I don't have to get an office set up. I don't have to have an office manager. I don't have to do the accounting or the bookkeeping.
God, nightmare.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. One of the things I always tell the boot campers too is, everyone's got their goals and their dreams and what they want to accomplish as an architect. But I always like to remind people that, you want to start your own architecture business and be the boss and run the firm and get the clients and the projects and this and that. But really the first step to getting there is passing the architect exam. And as crazy as it sounds, and, people bitch and moan and complain and all of the things about passing these freaking tests. But when it comes to being an entrepreneur, an architect, building a business and a brand and all of that, studying these tests and taking them and doing the work to pass these tests is actually a freaking walk in the park compared to that. And if you can't do the easy jobs, like, what makes you think that you're going to have this incredibly successful architecture career if just showing up and studying for these exams is such a challenge? And so.
Yeah, because like taking the exams, I always say that the exams are different than all the exams you took in high school because there's almost no limit to what you need to know. But if you're going to go start a firm, you still need to know all that. And you need to know a bunch about running a business, which there's also an infinite number of things you don't know about running a business. There's no finite number of stuff, like you could go get an MBA and there would still be more you have to learn.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's obviously more difficult, even just like running an architecture firm, doing it that way.
Yep.
It probably gets easier for someone as time goes on because they get more acquainted with it, they get more skilled with it and all that. But to start out though, like, it's hard. I would imagine you got to fall on your face a few times, and now you're talking about losing lots of money.
Oh, totally. It's scary. It's a completely different art. Mark LePage talks a lot about this, and he always talks about that book, the E-Myth. E-Myth Revisited.
The E-Myth?
Yeah, you ever read that book?
I've heard of it, but I haven't read it, no.
I haven't officially read the whole freaking book, but kind of the gist of it is there's all these different roles. There's the artist, the manager, the business owner, and all these different roles. And what ends up happening is the artist gets really great at making the art, and all of a sudden it turns into a business, but they're not an artist, and they're not a manager, and they're not a business owner. And then all of a sudden you got this artist just running this business haphazardly when really their beauty is the art. And that's what they should be focusing on. And and I think that happens a lot in architecture firms. Someone's great at design or landing clients, and all of a sudden next thing leads to another, and they've got this bustling firm and all this work, and they like, oh my God, how the hell did I get here, with trying to figure out all the moving parts.
Yeah, dude, something that's always bothered me a little bit about the world of architecture is that my professors in college would always be like, oh, you can do anything if you can do architecture. You can go be a photographer, you can do videography, you can be a sculptor, an engineer, you can go do all these things, an artist, like whatever. But like I think that it has to come with a caveat, right?
Hmm.
I believe that the training that you do in architecture is so difficult and it's such a good training. Like the training on how to be creative is so necessary and it's so applicable to everything. But like if you can do that, then you have what it takes to go learn any of those other things. You can go learn to be a great photographer. You can go learn to be a great videographer, but that does not mean that you're going to be able to step out on day one, be at the top of the dog pile, because there's tons of other people who have studied that specifically. And like all the time, all those 4 or 5 years you spent in architecture school, somebody else spent doing that thing,
Yep.
and they're going to be better than you. And just because you went to architecture school and your professors told you you can do anything, that doesn't mean that you're going to be able to compete in a marketplace. I always say that it means that you have what it takes to go learn those other things, right?
Hmm.
You can get in and then in a few years be really good, but that's different than saying you can do it now. And then the other reason why I think that can be misleading is because then you have all these architects who are going out to become, or they think that, oh, I don't need some business manager. Meanwhile, we spent 5 years in architecture school and
Yeah.
somebody else spent 4 years getting a business administration minor, or a couple years doing an MBA. And then you hear that, oh well, Bjarke Ingels has a business manager and got one early on, and then you're like, oh shit, maybe there's something to that. Maybe
Hmm.
there's not just some random tag. It's not like some random nameplate you put on a desk. It's somebody who actually knows what they're doing. There's actually value in that, because running a business, like, you got to respect what it takes to run a business, right? That's a complex kind of system. And so understanding how that works, maybe hiring somebody who actually knows how it works, may very well be more effective. I heard that lawyers have a similar issue, that like they teach lawyers law, but they don't teach lawyers how to run a practice.
Hmm.
And I've heard that lawyers have the same thing with, I think, doctors too. I'm not sure. They say that like, all these professions, you learn all this stuff and then you say, oh, I can finally go do it. But there's value still in talking to somebody who's learned how to do the mechanism of the business.
Yeah. I have a business manager. Her name's Joanna. Because what ended up happening for me was the Aerie boot camp just got so popular very quickly, and suddenly I was dropping the ball. I was forgetting to send people some emails. I felt like I was doing all administrative work all freaking day long,
Yeah.
and there was no time left to make the art or to figure out how to do the stuff that I wanted to work on, and it drove me nuts for a couple of months. And then it was actually one of my business coaches was like, dude, you need to hire someone. You're doing way too many things. You're not even good at it. I'm not even good at a lot of this administrative stuff. And so, yeah, that was where Joanna came in. I hired her a couple of years ago, and she does all the I always say she's the adult in the young architect business. She runs the show. I just work here. I just make the art, and Joanna takes care of all the administrative stuff.
Nice. Yeah. Dude, when you said that, like, you were dropping the ball, like, that struck a chord with me, because like I know what that's like real well. Feeling like I got emails I gotta send out like last week, because I'm gonna be on some like roundtable discussion for an AIA thing, and I didn't send them any slides, and like I don't know, man. I feel like I'm dropping the ball on things all the time, and I know that like I can't really beat myself up because I'm doing a lot of good stuff, and I'm not, like, if anything, like, it's high priority. I got to get it done. I get it done.
Would you say you're deadline driven? Like, you need a deadline? If you don't have a deadline,
I
it
don't
ain't gonna
know.
get done. That's me.
Probably.
Yeah.
I hate to admit it, but probably. But I also hate deadlines. Like, I was stressing out about this thing I promised I'd give to the principal at the office today, and so I busted my ass. I worked on Saturday because I was stressing out. So I worked a little bit on Saturday to get it done. I was like, man, I hate this shit. I hate having to work on Saturday. But I knew that like it was bothering me. And I don't know, I hate the pressure of the deadline, but at the same time, I kind of need it, I guess.
Yeah.
Even when I was doing the YouTube videos, consistently, I said, I think I shoot on Tuesdays and I publish on Thursdays or something like that. Like, I had like a time every week that I was shooting videos and then publishing videos. And it was sort of that pattern, that unspoken promise to myself or to the audience or whatever, that helped me get it done. And so, yeah, I guess I even like established a deadline for myself
Yeah.
when there
Yeah.
wasn't one exactly.
I need parameters. I can't just work, get things done. I try to, yeah, it's like even with the Young Architect, the blog, the podcast, all the things, like I need to at least have some parameters and moving things along.
Do your business managers help you with that, or like how do you set that up?
Well, we have a bunch of systems in place. Like I'm a systems guy. I like to design a system and put it in place just to try to see it, just to try to create routine. That was another thing too, is when I went out and, when I quit my day job and I started focusing on Young Architect full time, as much as I hated showing up at that goddamn cubicle every day, it created a routine for me. And I organized my life around the fact I got to be in the cubicle 9 to 5. And once that was gone, in a weird way, the grass is always greener, but I actually missed it. And bringing back the routine, and suddenly I was working by myself on my own without anyone. And I'll be honest with you, I started to get really lonely. I'm a people person. I need to be around people, and I really started to get lonely and depressed about it. And so hiring people to work with me, to check in with me, was also another thing too. And I always say too, like sometimes I need people to help me do the work, to do the work alongside me, not just check in with me. Like let's do it together.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I like to work on projects together at the same time with other people. So like that was a big part of it as well. So I guess we set up all these kind of systems in place to kind of create a routine to make things happen, and deadlines. We have a lot of deadlines with.
It's so funny that you say that, because I feel the same way. I remember at my first job where like the very first project I had was kind of like my little thing. They had come in, somebody wanted to design a pier. It was actually a perfect first project.
Mm-hmm.
They had a lake house. They were going to do a house later on. But first they wanted to get the pier done, so I was doing the pier, and like I was working alone on it, basically getting some feedback, red lines and all that. But then after that, then it was switched into, we did teamwork, which is like ArchiCAD's share file. I don't know what's called in Revit. Like the model exists on the server, and then you check out parts of it and you're working on it along with someone else. So like me and another guy were working on getting the pricing set done. And I noticed that during that, like it was so much easier for me to be productive, because I'm sitting here looking at like, okay, well, how much is he getting done? How much do I need to get done? I'm gauging it a little bit, but I'm also realizing like expectations. I got somebody to ask questions with. I feel like we're working on something together. That energizes me more than, okay, here's your thing, go off and do it alone for a while, and then check back in and we'll see if you did it right. Mm-hmm. One thing I can't stand is working on something and feeling like I might be doing this wrong, mm-hmm. and they're going to tell me to redo it later. That drags me down, makes me move even slower.
Yeah. And impedes your work and your confidence as well. I've been in that situation a lot. Yeah. Yeah, I hear that.
Yeah, but, and the same, and also like working in the job. That's the same thing I'm going through with working from home right now with coronavirus shutdown. And I've always known how much I need structure, because I had some semesters in college where I didn't really have many classes. I just had studio and like 2 business classes, and I had like the whole day off. I don't think I had any classes on like a Thursday, and I only had like 1 class on Monday and Friday or something like that. And so I set up a schedule for myself. Like every day I was waking up at like 9 o'clock anyway. I would read for like an hour, and I would get in the studio. I would do my thesis project, and I knew that was how I did well in my final thesis project, mm-hmm. because I had watched the thesis presentations like 2 or 3 years in a row before I was in thesis, and I watched so many of them go badly. And I remember me and my friend Nate were sitting there talking about it. We were like, dude, what do you think happens? Like, why are so many of these projects bad? Like they got shit reviews, their teachers are tearing them apart. It's not just because like they're 5th year professors and it's their thesis, so like the teachers are being a pain in the ass. These projects really are not finished. Mm-hmm. And it's like, what happens? You have a year to work on this. What went wrong? And what goes wrong is people don't have a schedule. They're their thesis project, at least in my school, was largely self-led. And it's like self-led. Okay, so then they dick around for like until the last month, and then they're trying to pull together a thesis project at the end. I set a schedule for myself where I woke up every day at like 8:30 or 9 o'clock. I forget what time it was exactly, but I'd get into studio in the morning and do a few hours of work in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
And that helped me get that project done. You know, when I'm working out, I don't go to the gym and lift whatever random weights I feel like lifting. Like I got a workout routine I downloaded from the internet. I'm like, I got workout A and B on Thursday, and it rotates, and like I know exactly what I'm doing, how many reps, how many sets, the rest time. And that's been good for me to get in the gym and get that stuff done. Like I can't do like, so you're now working from home. I'm still getting up, trying to log on by 9, and I'm trying to get a shower before that, which doesn't always happen. Sometimes I'm getting up late, but like I think you should get dressed, put on shoes, do your project. Yeah, everybody online is joking about wearing their pajamas all day. I don't know how you can do that and really be productive. So, Mike, what have you been up to for the last 2.5 years?
Oh man, I don't know. It's been a lot. I guess I don't know. Let me back up. Let me go. You went back to when you were in Atlanta working on your exams. So let me back up to Portland, Oregon, because I started Young Architect, the blog, and I was living in Portland, just blogging away, living in Portland, living my good life. And it was actually around the time, I ended up leaving my day job in 2015 to focus on Young Architect full time. It was actually shortly after when Donald Trump got elected, which was what, 2017, 2016? It was after he got elected. Portland, Oregon went freaking bananas. And there were freaking riots and protests like every day for like a month or two. And then there was a really bad snowstorm, and Portland's not prepared for a snowstorm. And it was around this time I started really kind of questioning, like, why the hell do I live in Portland, Oregon? My entire my Young Architect, all these people I'm interacting with online, they're all on the East Coast. And I just started to realize, like, I felt very like isolated out in Portland. And after I went on a business trip, I was doing some consulting work for this company, this contractor of Apple Computer. They sent me to like the East Coast to do site visits at all these different Apple stores all over the East Coast. They rented me a car and I just drove around visiting Apple stores for a week, and I made a shit ton of money. And while I was on that business trip, I was like, I think I want to move back to the East Coast. And so it was the summer of 2017. I moved out of my apartment that I'd been living in for 9 years, and got rid of everything. Bought a car. I bought a minivan. And me and my dog, we were just going to drive around the country and be homeless for a little while, and just be like a digital nomad, as they call them, just kind of travel around, living off the laptop. And then I came in. I was actually my best friend, Chuck, his old man had passed away, and he ended up taking over his old man's house. And he's like, yo, I've been staying at my dad, recently passed. I've been staying at his house. And so me and Molly went over there, and we stayed with Chuck for a little while, and he ended up getting a puppy, which locked me in. I became a big part of that puppy, kind of raising the puppy and getting everything. And I ended up staying in New York for, I don't know, it was like a year and a half. We stayed in Long Island, and it was a lot of fun. It was great. It was great being back in New York. But it was the winters, man. I hate cold weather. I freaking hate it. I just can't handle the cold weather. And Chuck likes the house cold. And I'm the first one down. I'm such a wimp when it comes to cold weather. So it was the summertime of, when was it? It was 2018. The summer of 2018, I said, I'm going to go buy a bigger van. I went and bought a Mercedes Sprinter van. I said, me and my dog, we're going to buy this van. We're going to build it out. I built an apartment inside this giant van, and me and Molly just drove around America for all of the first thing we did is we came down to Florida. I was running Young Architect in New York, and my dad's a CPA, and he kept telling me, he's like, dude, you are getting your butt kicked on taxes. He's like, yeah, got to go to a better state, hang out in New York, but you got to go somewhere else. So I was like, where? And he's like, Florida. Florida or Texas. So I said, all right. So my mom's got a house down in Florida. I said, I'm going to go just kind of putz around and hang out with my mom, do a bunch of lectures and workshops and things. And so I came down here, Florida, in like November 2018.
I know that's right because I had just moved up here to New York.
Yes, I
And you were
remember.
one of the only people I knew. And then you were like, hey, I'm doing this boot camp thing tonight at this place by Herald Square or one of those parks or something like that. So I
I
went
was
over.
teaching a workshop. Yeah, I was teaching an ARE workshop. And you came over, I remember.
And then you were like, it was the first time I saw you since I moved to New York. And then you were like, dude, I'm about to leave and go travel around the world in my van. And I was like, dang it, man, there was 50% of the people I know in New York.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember that. I was like, hey, Drew, it's good to see you, but I'm out of here. See ya. I'm going to Florida.
It's all good.
Yeah, so I don't know. I came down to Florida. It was cool. I like Florida a lot. I like the beach, man. Me and my dog. My dog's getting old. She just turned 12. So we've just been hanging out in Florida. And then when was it? It was in early 2019. I did a loop around America. I did a tour from Florida. Where did we go? Florida to Atlanta, up to Knoxville, out to Texas. We just did like this insane loop, like out to New Mexico, back to like, I did a loop in the early beginning of the year. And then what happened? 2019, we drove back up north, back to New York, me and the dog. And then we drove across the country, and I was out in the summer. I was in Portland, Oregon for all summer, and we had the first Young Architect Conference. That was another crazy thing.
Yeah, dude, the conference was huge.
It was nuts. It was such a huge project too. It went on for it was like 15 months of constant meetings and planning and organization and things like that. And
I love telling people the story about how like I came up here for the AIA convention in 2017, I think it was, or 18. It was 18 because I had just gotten a license. I got a license. I came up here. I was trying to find a job, so I was like running around throwing out business cards and trying to network with people. And you and I grabbed lunch afterwards. And then I don't remember if it was when we grabbed lunch afterwards or if it was the time with Anne and Rachel.
Yeah.
And you were like, I'm thinking about doing this conference. And you know what it was? I think that's when you first brought it up. But then I think like a day or two later, we grabbed barbecue somewhere.
Yeah.
And you were like, dude, I'm thinking about doing this. And I was like, go for it. And then you were like, and you'll be a keynote speaker. I said, okay. And then you pulled out your phone right then. And then you were like, announced it on Instagram. And I was like, oh shit, what did I get myself into? But I was like, okay, here we go. I got to get a keynote speech ready to go. And then, then it happened. It was like a year and a half later.
And Rachel was a keynote speaker too. You guys were like, that was a crazy conference because the New York City AIA National Convention was, it was a disaster. That was a disaster of an AIA conference.
It was so spread out.
It was so convoluted and confusing, and no one was where there was no like central place. Everyone was just kind of just scattered all over the city.
Dude, I missed like half of my lectures I signed up for.
I know. And it was so confusing. And I'll be honest with you, as I say at every AIA conference, like none of this shit's for the young people. These AIA conferences really are for the previous generation architects. And so the whole time I was just running my mouth saying, I'm going to create my own architecture conference. Fuck this. I'm going to create an architecture conference for the young people. Like this is all about like the FAIA, all these old fogies. Like why are we like focusing on the past? Like let's look into the future. I'm going to create an architecture conference for the future of the architecture profession. And I was just like being an asshole the whole time.
Oh, and I remember you threw that party too.
Oh yeah, that was another thing. I was like, I'm sick of these rubber chicken dinners with 2 drink tickets and these crappy performers. I remember actually what was going to happen was DJ Questlove was supposed to DJ that party. And I was like, I don't care. I'm going to create a competing party against DJ Questlove. And then at the last minute, he canceled. I don't even think he was booked. The last minute they changed
He was scared.
Yeah,
they want to be with you.
The venue they changed it to En Vogue from like 1992. And then my party just exploded. And
dude, I remember at one point the line was like down the block.
I know.
Like I'd gotten there early. I dropped by the AIA one just kind of see what it was about. But it was kind of weird. Like it's kind of older people being repressed, and like you're being kind of formal, but like also there's music going on and you're trying to have fun. It just felt weird. So I met up with a few people over there who I recognized, but then I was like, I'm gonna bounce, and got in, thankfully early, because then later on the line was like down the block, and you had told them only like a few people would show up, right?
Yeah,
Like
I thought it would have like, I don't know, maybe 120 people, maybe. And I put up this stupid little Eventbrite, and then next thing you know, actually after it was all said and done and it was done, 700 people had signed up for my little party at the Irish pub.
yeah. And I remember I met you guys there too, because when I got into town, I think you texted me and you were like, "Hey, are you here?" And I met you at that place, and it was so funny. It was just like a few days later. You're like, "Yeah, here's where we're gonna have the party." I was like, "Okay, cool, man." And then just a few days later, it was like the line was down the block.
Yeah, that was, and so many people were like, "Mike, that was the best part of that whole conference was your party." And so that weekend, like, really, like, put it in my head, like, we're having an architecture conference. We're gonna plan this thing. And
Joanna, when you were talking to me, you were saying that party gave you a lot of the confidence that you needed to be like, yeah, I think people would actually show up to this conference.
Yep. And Joanna was there too, and she experienced it all as well. And so after this whole thing was over, me and Joanna was full speed ahead. Is let's figure out how to have an architecture conference.
Yeah.
And that was a big part of me driving around America for 2019. It's showing up in these towns and saying, "Hey, I'm having a young architect conference and I'm inviting you to it. Like, I need you to show up in Portland, Oregon." And so like in 2019, I did 68 presentations, public speaking presentations. That's not even including boot camp. It's like 68 groups of people I've stood up and spoken to, because when I was on tour, it was like every day I was in another city talking to another AIA group or whatever. And so after Young Architect Conference happened, I came back to Florida and just kind of needed to, like, that was back in September, and have just been chilling in Florida. It was when I did another tour this year. I drove out to California right before coronavirus happened. It was early January. I did a loop from Florida to San Diego to San Francisco to Albuquerque and back to Florida. And I did about 25, 30 presentations. And I got back in the like middle of February, right before coronavirus crap started. And I was like, I need a break. And I remember coming back telling Joanna and Destiny, I was like, I want to do webinars, like, enough with this driving across America crap. This last trip really burned me out. And in a weird way, like, the coronavirus happened, we've essentially, rather than traveling around the country, I've just been doing webinars every 2 or 3 weeks with my presentation. And that's actually been really successful. I don't need to go anywhere. I think I reach way more people than I did when I was doing these tours. We usually have between like 30 to 60 people. So it's been wild, man. The past 3 years, it's just like nonstop, one thing after another, but it's been fun. I'm super blessed. You know, I'm super grateful I get to live this life and do these things. And between the boot camp and Young Architect and all of this stuff, it really supports me. And I feel really supported by the community as well. The people who, the Young Architect community that we've just been growing and building. So
nice, man.
Yeah,
dude. One of the things that always has been cool to me around doing the YouTube channel has always been the thought that, like, my grandparents didn't have this opportunity. My grandfather was a businessman, and he ran a car repair shop in like Wichita, Kansas, and like he never had the opportunity to speak to tens of thousands of people on YouTube. And I got great grandparents, something along those lines, who went out west for like the Homestead Act back in the day, after like the Louisiana Purchase, and they were just giving away free land if you were going to go be a farmer. Like, I got ancestors who went out and did that. And I was like, holy shit, that's awesome. Like, that's an amazing chance. Like, could you imagine the government just giving away free land today? There's no way in hell that's going to happen. Yeah. Like, that's an amazing once in a lifetime opportunity. I was like, damn, dude, why couldn't I have something like that? And then I paused for a second, look around, and I'm like, oh shit, I got the internet. This is the Wild West. All right, this is our opportunity like that. And yeah, dude, what motivates me to like do the YouTube channel is just the fact that, there's certain opportunities that we have today that nobody else has ever had before.
Yeah.
And like what you're doing, traveling around, doing the ARA boot camp, you have such a broad reach. Like, I don't know, man. It's fascinating to me.
Yeah. I would say one of my biggest inspirations is the community. A couple of years ago, I rode my bike across America, and I was going to create a new website, a new business around riding bikes across America. And I was going to create like the young architect kind of version of riding bikes. And I started building it out, and I started to realize that my audience, it was these cranky old men who are constantly just making fun of me or all these other things. And I started to realize like why am I wasting my time on this crap? It's like all of the stuff I put out on the Young Architect platform, and people have just been so grateful and thankful. And there are so many just amazing people who've just been so gracious. And it was a real eye opener for me to be like, enough with, I need to go all in on Young Architect. I need to just focus on all of my energy on that. And it's been in meeting all these people and helping them pass their exams one way, shape, or another, has been really rewarding for me. And it was a weird pivot in my career because back when I got my license 5-6 years ago, I thought 5-6 years from now I'm gonna have my own firm. I'm gonna be landing projects. We're gonna be dominating. It's like, and in a weird turn of events, the Young Architect thing happened, and I resisted it at first. It was never the plan to arrive at this spot. But yeah, I don't know. I feel super grateful and blessed for what happened. So
it's cool to hear you say that, like, it's the community, because I mean, I look at one thing that I noticed at being at the conference was like how many of those people like knew you and you knew them. And just comparing kind of what I've seen from your stuff from what I know about my stuff is like one thing that I think is a huge asset of yours and really cool about what you do is you talk to people one-on-one, or even if it's not one-on-one, it's live on like a webcam with a group of other people. Like you really connect with them live. I do the videos alone in my apartment, upload it, and I get some comments. And I get I can see the numbers, but they're just numbers, right? It's hard to really really feel like you have a handle on what people really want, what hits, what doesn't hit.
Yeah.
And I felt like that's something that's really cool about what you do. And I'm looking at with my new little venture I'm talking about, having something where I can have like a back and forth talking with people.
Yeah.
Kind of move.
Yeah. I never really thought about it that way. Because I've always had the boot camp. I always have a group of people on Sunday, Monday nights that are waiting to talk to me and check in and see how it's going. And I've had that for 5 years now. And it's let me meet a lot of people and connect. But I never thought about how, kind of just put it.
Even from like a boring like business class way of describing it is like you have to know your target audience.
Mm-hmm.
And like that's exactly what you're doing.
Yeah.
Effectively.
Yeah.
Like you really get to know them because you're talking with them.
Yeah. I'm excited for you to get your new project up and running. I know we talked about it in the other episode, but I think you're gonna have a lot of fun with it, man.
Yeah. And just to fill in any of the listeners or whatever. I'm launching a new service where I will start reviewing portfolios. So like you can send me your portfolio, I'll mark it up, send it back, or I'm gonna have a few different types of packages where they could also be like I was talking about, like a coaching call, and one package is going to involve multiple reviews with the coaching call. So that way, like we really hammer out what your goals are, how to help you accomplish that, make sure everything comes out good after the initial round of ideas and red lines, and then another one where it might be us like working continuously for a long time until you get the job you're looking for, and that could be emails, it could be coaching calls, like whatever works best. So yeah, that's kind of the idea of like the product where I might be able to like engage with my audience live beyond just like texting or direct messages, DMs.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be really helpful for a lot of people. It's hard to get this type of feedback, I had no freaking clue. My portfolio's a freaking mess. And having someone, I think it's I always say, in some ways your time is more valuable than your money. And having someone that you could just throw a couple of bucks at and say, hey, I really need some help and some real feedback on my portfolio, I think is going to be huge. That doesn't exist. Where would someone go? They would go to their old professors or something, say, hey, can you review my portfolio and give me feedback?
Yeah, I mean, I asked my professors for help, and like not to diminish any advice I got from them because I always got good advice, but I felt like they would always kind of like they were busy. I had to chase them down.
Yeah.
They threw their spare 10 minutes at it. I don't feel like they really gave
Mm-hmm.
it like the respect it needed, the time it needed to like become much better. And then, and you also could, I mean, you could talk to like your friends, but then your friends are kind of on your level too, so they don't necessarily
Yeah.
know much more than you do. And if you're at a job and you're looking to change to another job, then like you can't bring it into the office and ask them because you can't tell them you're looking for other jobs. And yeah, I mean, to your point, right? I think you're absolutely right. Your time is more valuable than your money because you can always make more money. You can leverage. There's ways to leverage or whatever. You can be Warren Buffett. I mean, you can go down different paths if money is really the main thing. You can never. Nobody can buy more time. Even Warren Buffett. Even Jeff Bezos. And so, like, beyond just okay, you're going to spend an extra couple weeks working on your portfolio, an extra 6 months maybe working on your portfolio because you're not going to ask someone for help.
Mm-hmm.
What about like, all right, you really didn't get anybody's help. Now you're going to get a job. Meanwhile, you could have got a better job. So now what are you going to do? Spend like 3 years at some job that's below where you could have been. 3 years from now, do you want to have been at a great firm or
Mm-hmm.
like the one that you settled for because you didn't ask for help?
Yep.
Like that's major time. It's not coming back. And working at a job you don't want to be at, that sucks, dude. Life's too short.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can't be doing that.
You know who's been doing a lot of really cool stuff is our ex Ashley. You remember her from the conference, Drew? She was one of the
Yeah,
keynotes.
yeah. She
She
gave a great keynote.
Yeah, she is. Okay, so first, for if you don't know her, she's a pharmacist. She's not an architect. She's from the pharmacy. She's a doctor in pharmacy, and she is just so good with helping people nail their job interviews, or write a great resume, or really have confidence or work through conflicts in their professional settings. And she added me. She has a kind of a membership site. It's called Career by Design, and I've been kind of following I joined the group, and I've been kind of watching all the career advice because, and even though like I don't have a boss, I'm my own boss. I have my own business, but I always felt like I floundered so much with just trying to navigate situations in my career. I sucked at job interviews. My portfolio's garbage. And like, I don't know, it's just been really fascinating for me to see her helping people. Like, I feel like there's such a need for this, especially with the next generation architects, like helping us get our shit together so we could nail that job interview or have a great portfolio and stuff like that. And I think it's so needed, and it's money well spent.
Yeah, I mean, it's important to get training, and I think that people in architecture don't do training well enough. Like the system doesn't train people well enough. I feel like in a lot of firms, you kind of just get thrown in. They're like, you just kind of throw you into the fire to tell you to figure it out. And then if you do it wrong, they redline it, and then you correct it and do it better next time. But like rarely do they sit you down and be like, all right, here's a lesson today on this one thing. Like
Exactly.
the times when I've gotten that from my firms, it's been the most valuable things. Like I know how to do door details now because someone explained to me all the stuff. And now I see people making some of the same mistakes I made, drawing shims like they're blocking and they're different things, right? But if somebody hadn't explained it to me, I would have known.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes that kind of training. It takes that. I always talk on these, like whenever we're talking, it seems like this idea always comes up. There's like three things. There's like your known knowns, your known unknowns, and then your unknown unknowns. So there's things that you know, there's things you don't know, and then there's things you don't know. So like I know architecture, I don't know quantum physics, but I'm aware that I don't know quantum physics. But then there's all kinds of other things I don't even realize I don't know. And I can't even go ask a question about that stuff because I don't even know it's there. I can go look up the stuff. And there's things within architecture I don't know. I can go Google it. I can go figure it out. I know where to look. But it's the stuff that like you don't even know, stuff you don't even know to ask. Mm-hmm. That's the stuff you get out of having a mentor or somebody who's a professional. They can tell you what you need to look out for.
Yep. Let me tell you a little secret, Drew. You know what I've learned? I think the millennial generation needs for success in their careers more than any other architecture generation?
What's that?
Emotional support. And having people saying, yes, you can do it. I've learned this with my boot camp. A big part of every boot camp is me saying, you can do this. You can totally do this. You have the skills. You already have it inside you. I'm just going to show you how to do it. You can totally freaking do this. And we need that. And I feel like it doesn't happen. And, you know, with the boot camp, with your portfolio idea, with what Ashley's doing, it like, I feel like all like I've seen it's powerful, and I feel like there's a lot of opportunity there with supporting each other. I even see it in the community. Look at that Next Architect group that Adam created and how powerful that's been with people just kind of sharing insights and supporting each other. So,
yeah, man, it's an interesting thing to say that like people need the emotional support, because it's funny, all right? Like on one level, it's a better thing to need, right? Like if you could just kind of get over your own fear and then just go do it, awesome. Guess what? All you have to do is you just get over it. Like that's you. Like that's all on you. You know, nobody has to give you permission. Like what I talked about in my keynote. And so like if that's all that you're missing, like that's a good thing to be missing. I mean, it's good. It's as good a thing as any. And I don't know, for some reason I'm reminded of a talk that I heard. It was a podcast with Eric Weinstein or something. He shows up on Joe Rogan's podcasts. I don't remember if it was Joe Rogan's podcast or if it was some other one, but he was talking about, you know, we're in the primaries right now for the elections, and like the last 4 people that could potentially have been president were Donald Trump, Joe Biden, Bernie Sanders, and Elizabeth Warren. And he said that like all of them were born before 1944 or something like that, or 1949. I don't remember the year exactly, but they were all born like in the 1940s. And he said, it's like your grandparents have presented you with a tricycle, and they're riding the tricycle around saying, look how fun this is, but then they're not giving it up for someone else to ride. Like, why don't we have a younger person running for president? And so I heard people complaining about, oh, we only got old people running for president. But I was like, yeah, you're just complaining about shit for no reason. But when I hear him explain it like that, and now it's like, oh shit, like that makes sense. You know, it's like we're supposed to take over. Who's gonna run shit? Like who's gonna? And I don't mean that like in a flamboyant way. Like really, who's going to step up and make sure that things don't go south? And I personally, I don't know, it struck a chord with me, because it's like, you know, there is going to come a time where it's time for you to step up, and maybe the time's now to do, you know, to run that firm. Maybe it's not run for president, maybe it's run the company, maybe it's run the firm, get the project, launch the new business, you know. Whereas, you know, and probably there's not a lot of people who want you to think that way if you're a millennial, you know, like that generation who is kind of in control of everything right now. They're all the CEOs or whatever. They're not interested in you taking over. And I noticed an interesting difference between architecture and web page design, because one of my best friends in Atlanta was a web page designer. He worked at like careerbuilder.com and apartmentsguide.com or something. And like I realized from talking to him that there were no seasoned masters in the world of web page development. There's no, like in my architecture firms that I've worked at, the principals have all been like 70 years old. They're like late 60s, early 70s. There's no one like that in the world of web page design. He said that there's any old people there, like anybody over 50 or 60, they're kept around like, cause there's some kind of like, they're kept around as like a legacy format. There's like a legacy, there's some type of code in the website somewhere that nobody knows anymore, and they keep them around in a back room just in case something goes wrong with that specific code. But like the thing about like Mark Zuckerberg and these guys who start Snapchat, like dudes who are running the show over there, they're like 35. And now granted that was like 5 years ago, so maybe they're 40 now. But yeah, like it's not like you got to work until you're in your 70s before you can do something, even though that's what a lot of people would love to have you believe.
Yeah. The old
like
man
nobody has to give you
profession.
permission.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I dealt with a lot of that when I worked for the city of Portland, Oregon. Was I don't know how old I was, in my early 30s when I got that job. And I was the youngest person that ever did that job. And everyone else was my parents' age. And all of a sudden, this young kid, this young licensed architect came along, and I had contractors who were like, I don't want to work with this kid. He doesn't know anything. He's got no experience. And then, oh man, by the book. I'm forced to do everything by the book. Yeah, I don't have any experience. Yeah, okay, contractor, let's figure it out. But this is what excites me, Drew. This is what my passion is. It's this profession of architecture is going to change more than it ever has once all these baby boomers retire and the millennials step up. It's already happening. It's happening faster and faster every day.
And they do. Like, there's some people who even like hear that, and then they're so skeptical about whether or not it's time for them to step up or not. A buddy of mine who's a high school teacher, he told me this. He said that, you would ask a bunch of people, who would you rather have do surgery? Have you had to have like open heart surgery? Would you rather have it done by the guy who's like 60 years old, been doing it for 40 years, or the guy who just graduated from med school last year?
Yeah.
And a lot of people would say that they want the old guy doing it. But actually, the old guy doing it is like 40 years away from having anybody critique him. The guy who just graduated from med school was just trained recently. It's fresh on his mind. My friend who was a high school teacher said that this is true for particular professions. Doctors and surgeons is one, teachers is another. That's why he's concerned about it. Because once you are your own teacher, you're not training from anyone else. You're in a room all by yourself. It's the younger ones who are actually probably better teachers than the older ones who are stuck in their ways and haven't changed anything, and they haven't had any kind of feedback.
And they develop, they go backwards. They're worse of a teacher 20 years later than they were when they first began.
It could be, it could be. And I have some amazing teachers who are like old teachers. So it's important not to paint broad strokes.
Yeah.
But the point still stands that there is something to be said about somebody who's just recently been trained. That doesn't necessarily mean that you're not capable. And it doesn't necessarily mean that the person who's been doing it for a long time is better, even though they would love to have you think that.
Yeah. All right, team. That's what's going on, me and Drew. This is our new podcast. We don't know what it looks like just yet because we're just starting it, and we're just going to kind of see where this whole thing goes. I'm super excited to do this with you, Drew. I feel like this is a long time coming. It's nice to have this platform, just kind of just free flowing, off the cuff. Let's just hang out and just catch up and drink some beer. Just bullshit.
Kind of like what we could do over beer in real life if you hadn't fled New York City right after I moved here.
Oh, come on, man. We can do it on Zoom.
Yeah. More often and less travel time too. So it's all good.
Yeah. So I guess the show is going to be Mike and Drew hanging out and the listeners eavesdropping in on us just talking about whatever. Which is cool. I'm into it. All right, team. Thanks for listening. I hope this was helpful. I hope you learned something, and have a good rest of your day.
Yeah. Hope it helps.
Take care.